It is 9:30. Let's talk a little sports here. KCIM Sports Rewind. Sports Director Jeff Blankman, who always gets top billing wherever he goes in the house. Right? Am I right?
No, not at all.
Oh, you don't even get top billing in your own house, do you?
No, I don't. I live alone.
Also, Mason Nealon, Assistant Sports Director. I'm John Ryan. We got a special guest in studio with us, Carroll High AD Randy Bissen, who, by the way, let me compliment you on your promptness. Jeff told you to be here at 9:25. Man, you walked in the door at 9:25.
I listen to whatever Jeff says, so yeah.
Same as all of us. Same. So Carroll High making the big jump to the Hawkeye 10. Let's kind of start at the beginning. When were the first rumblings of Carroll High joining potentially the Hawkeye 10? When did that start?
Good question. That was a few months ago. We got an invite from the Hawkeye 10.
So it wasn't like a year or two ago or anything like that?
No. I mean, obviously I have a brother that's in Glenwood, so who's the AD at Glenwood, so we've had some conversations over the years, but it's never been, hey, we're going to invite you, anything like that. So they had said, would you entertain an invite if we sent you something? And I said, sure. But there was never anything, no discussion of, hey, please send us an invite or anything like that. So
why not? Why didn't that happen years ago? I mean,
good question. I mean, we're happy in the Raccoon River. There's good competition, good schools there. So we got the invite. They wanted an answer by September 1st. At that time, Lewis Central, Red Oak, and Shenandoah were trying to figure out where they were going and what they were going to do. We initially said, we're not really going to entertain the idea until you guys kind of figure out what you're doing with your conference. And then Lewis Central decided to go to the MRC, Red Oak and Shenandoah decided to go to the WIC, and then it was go time for us to make a decision. So
Could you see the writing on the wall for Carroll? Like once conference realignment started, even with the smaller schools, you knew it was going to move up the chain.
Yeah. I mean, there was talks over the years of, if Red Oak and Shenandoah left, would you be more interested to join and things like that? With the travel going, making those trips to Red Oak and Shenandoah, it's like, man, I don't know if we have some long trips in the Raccoon River, but 5 or 6 long trips in the Hawkeye 10 seems a little crazy. So I wouldn't say we ever really entertained the idea besides just conversations at family gatherings and stuff like that. But then when all those things started falling in place, it was like, okay, we should probably get the conversation started. So we asked for an extension because we weren't quite ready to make that decision in September, and they pushed it back to October 1st. And we went through the process and sent a survey out to everybody and tried to get as much feedback as we could and went from there.
And Randy, it sounds like the survey results kind of leaned fairly heavily towards moving on to the Hawkeye 10.
Yeah, I mean, we sent it out to student athletes, to the coaches, to the parents, and the community, and it was 70%, I think, had said that they would rather join the Hawkeye 10, and there was about 10-15% that said that they don't have an opinion one way or the other, and the other percent said we should stay with the Raccoon River.
I know last week when I was at your guys' meeting there, you guys talked about, maybe some of the older kids or parents of the juniors and seniors didn't fill it out because some of them had thought, well, you're going in 2 years, it may be not going to impact them. So you guys had talked about resending it out. Did you guys able to do that? And what was the response that second time you sent it out?
Yeah, we ended up getting around 250 responses from everybody. So, the invite was for the 27-28 school year, so that's technically what we accepted. Obviously, there's conversation now of, is it a possibility to do it for next year already? Lewis Central is going to the MRC next year. I think Red Oak and Shenandoah, don't quote me on any of this, but I think they initially got it approved for in 2 years, but now they're doing the same thing of going back to see if the board has to approve it or what has to happen in order to make it work for next year.
Now, as far as making kind of putting Carroll High on a little more equal footing, those school districts in the Raccoon River are growing like mad. So Carroll High had to be on the small end of that. Are they more on an equal footing, if not a bigger school in the Hawkeye 10?
So, yeah, I mean, it was fun. I mean, it's easy to talk about all that stuff, but not really have the data to back it up, So in the survey that we sent out, we gathered all the beds numbers. We gathered, kindergarten through 12th grade enrollment and what that looks like, the Department of Ed actually has projection numbers of what every school is going to look like in 5 years. Don't ask me how they figure that out, but I mean, so you were able to look at those numbers and kind of see where we're at. We're the smallest school in the Raccoon River right now. In the Hawkeye 10, I think we're third or fourth biggest in the Hawkeye 10. So,
so you're not even the biggest in the Hawkeye 10.
No. Denison, Glenwood, I think Harlan's got us by a few students as well. So we're more in the middle there, whereas we're on the small end in the Raccoon River with projections of staying that way and other schools growing, So we've had a couple schools in the Raccoon River get reached out by other schools wanting them to join conferences, and so there's a possibility that might happen, but they came back and said, no, we're happy with where we're at. But a lot of those schools in the Raccoon River are getting bigger, and the resources, having more kids to pull from sports, you're seeing that more and more.
And their facilities too.
They're really nice. Well, I mean, we'll miss that, right? I mean, we love competing in the Raccoon River. We love the coaches, the ADs. I mean, that'll be the hard part of getting away from that, because there's good people there. There's good schools. I've really enjoyed working with all those ADs and coaches. So, I mean, I'll miss that part of it. But I think at the end of the day, you're trying to do what's best for kids and what's best for our program and what we want our vision to be. And I think we're a better fit with the Hawkeye 10 schools.
What have you heard? And it's because I'm sure that some of the ADs from both conferences have reached out to you since last night. What have you been hearing from them?
Well, it's funny. The joke was always like, right when I told them we got invited, a lot of them responded and said, you have to do what's best for your kids, with a big smiley face, thinking we'll be happy to get you out of the conference so we don't have to make that long trip to Carroll, right? I mean, that's always the running joke. And I'm like, man, we make those trips all the time. But for those guys, I mean, that's the long trip for them. So obviously I got some nice texts saying, hey, once again, we'll miss you. It's been nice having you in the conference. But again, you have to do what's best for your kids. And so they all get it. So it's kind of bittersweet, I guess.
And then for you guys as well, I mean, for some of the people that didn't want you guys to leave, do you feel like there's still a chance that you can schedule some of these Raccoon River teams in the out-of-conference games in some sports?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the big piece of, are we going to be able to do this next year already, right? The scheduling piece, and are we going to have enough games for everything? So, I mean, obviously I don't think Winterset, Bondurant, and Carlisle are going to be knocking on our door saying, hey, please keep us on the schedule. Those are the long trips. But, I do think we'll have Boone and, some of those schools that are a short hour and a half that will be interested in keeping us on the schedule.
I'm sure I asked you this before we went on. What are you going to miss more, the trip to Carlisle or the trip to Winterset?
They're both, between those two and Bondurant, those are 3 long trips. So we talked about that, too, with the Hawkeye 10. The conversation was Glenwood's the longest trip out of all those, right? Even in the Raccoon River, they're longer than all those. You'll have trips to St. Albert's, you'll have trips to Creston and Clarinda, and those 4 trips, you have 4 long ones in the Hawkeye 10. But I think when you look at the other schools that you're playing with, Kemper and Denison and Harlan and Atlantic, you'll finally get some shorter trips that we haven't been able to have in the Raccoon River.
Every trip was a long one in the Raccoon River. So
yes.
Talk about playing, like, you're a basketball coach. Goes, how does it affect your teams specifically? And you're going to be playing Kemper twice a year now.
It'll be fun. I mean, if you've been to those games, it's a packed gym. I mean, we always play that game first game of the year, so you better be ready to go, because they're always good and well coached. So to me, it's going to be fun. A lot of people talked about, well, is this going to be worse for Carroll because now the rivalry is going to be bigger, and we don't want that. We want the community to be together, and to me, it's just another way for us to show that those are fun games, right? It's a rivalry. Yeah. We already play Kemper in almost everything except for football and volleyball. And volleyball, we usually see them on the weekends anyway. Some of those sports, we'll play them twice instead of just once.
Might diffuse a little bit.
So, I don't know. I think it's a good thing. To me, it's always fun to play in front of a packed house and have good crowds, and even though there might be a little trash talk out there, that's always fun, too, as long as it's friendly trash talk. So, to me, I think it'll be fun.
And to go with the rivalry talk before I ask my question, a lot of times it's in the stands where the rivalry comes, because the kids all hang out together and they get along, they play other sports together and do travel teams together, so it's usually not the kids out on the floor. For Randy, for you guys to move, do you really want to make it next year if possible?
I think from talking to coaches, yes, they want to do it. I mean, obviously, we have to make sure scheduling's right. We have to make sure, every sport is getting what they need to get. And
is it back to the drawing board with a lot of that?
Well, I mean, it'll be interesting if Red Oak and Shenandoah can make it work, right? If they can't and they're staying in the conference and we decide to go, I mean, it would be easy to plug in Lewis Central's schedule, plug into Lewis Central, because it really doesn't change too much. Obviously, with basketball and them having 11 teams in their conference, they weren't playing every school twice, typically like what we do. So, they do some things where they played schools twice, but only one's a conference game. And I've already talked to my brother. I'm like, hey, I'm not a big fan of that. If we get down to 9, let's just do it how we do in the Raccoon River, play everybody twice. And I think they had some valid points of why they did that with some of the levels and competition-wise. And, you don't want Lewis Central, who's huge, playing Red Oak and Shenandoah twice and things like that. So there'll definitely be some conversations that we'll have to, I think we can bring some things to the Hawkeye 10 that maybe we do in the Raccoon River, and I'm sure they have some things that they do in their conference that we haven't done in the Raccoon River that will be beneficial for our kids too. With that being said, like they have an academic day where so many kids are represented from each school, and they go and they have like a academic recognition dinner and things like that. We don't do that in the Raccoon River. So they do some things that we haven't done that will be good for our students as well.
For you guys as just a school as well as a community, what do you feel like are the next steps to be able to get everybody ready to go within either next year or the next 2 years?
Well, as far as just sports-wise and things like that, or are you talking about schedules and
just kind
everything?
of just both, everything included there?
Yeah. Well, I think the scheduling thing is the big piece of figuring out if we can do that. Obviously, the ADs have said, yeah, we'll make it work, but we have to check the Constitution, the Raccoon River Constitution and the bylaws, and make sure we're following the processes to officially get out the right way and do those things. And once we're told that it can for sure happen for next year, then yeah, it's scheduling and attending some Hawkeye 10 meetings and figuring out what this is going to look like and how we're going to make it work and things like that. So, is
this going to be it for realignment? Do you think? I mean, it's kind of sad. Jeff just shaking his head no, but I mean, with the basis of Carroll, Kemper, Harlan, Denison, Glenwood, maybe Atlantic thrown in there. I mean, that's a pretty solid district right there. I mean, as far as geographically. Yeah, I think throughout the state, I mean, you hear realignment a lot, and good or bad, right? Everyone's talking about, are they in the right spot and what should they do? And, some schools aren't in a conference now and trying to get the state to put them in a conference and do some of those things. So, that was a question that was brought up at the forum that we had was, well, are you in there for 2 years? Do you have to sign a contract for 5 years? And I'm like, we're not going somewhere thinking, okay, where are we going to go next? We're going there because we're happy to be there. And if some other teams want to join, I'm sure there's a process for that in the Hawkeye 10, and we'll figure that out. But we're happy to be a part of it. We're happy with the schools that are there. I know a lot of the ADs from different AD meetings and things like that. So I'm looking forward to working with them, but knowing that we built some pretty good relationships in the Raccoon River too, so we'll definitely miss those guys as well. Staying on that subject, Randy, I heard from a fellow Raccoon River Conference coach of yours last night after you guys had voted that they're already talking about Pella being who they're going to reach out to. I've heard Van Meter in a couple of years is going to look to move up. I know the Hawkeye 10, I asked you this the other day, the Hawkeye 10 had invited trainer. From everything I'm hearing, that's going to be a no. Going into this conference, you mentioned the other day, scheduling with 9 can be tough. Would you like to see at some point the Hawkeye 10 add a school? I know it's difficult probably to find somebody that's going to fit geographically and size-wise and everything, but would you like to see the Hawkeye 10 add a 10th? Well, I mean, we've made it work with 9 schools in the Raccoon River the last few years. Obviously, when Perry left, right, there was a hole in some of the schedules, and we didn't fill that. We didn't rearrange our schedules. We just tried to fill the hole a little bit. So, when we were supposed to play Perry in basketball on a Friday, we tried to find a game on a Saturday or Thursday.
around that, and that worked out well. So, yes, everything's easier scheduling-wise when you have 10 or you have 8, but I don't think, and once again, unofficially, just talking to my brother, it's not like, hey, if you come, we're going to try to get this school to get an even number. I think you make it work with 9, and if a school says that they're interested or something makes sense, then you go about it that way. But I don't think there's a big plan of, all right, now that we got you in here, we need to get one more. Obviously, they invited Trainer. I think once Shenandoah and Red Oak decided to go to the WIC, I think that kind of calmed them down a little bit and said that they're happy with where they're at. And in the Raccoon River, Van Meter has been talked about before, and Pella was talked about before too, but that didn't make sense when we were in there. We're not driving to Pella to play, and they're not coming to Carroll, so that didn't quite make sense. So that is a possibility for them as well. So yeah, I think every conference is having those discussions around the state, whether teams are coming or teams are wanting to go or things like that. So.
Was there any discussion at the high school this morning now the decision's actually been made, or is it just kind of like, oh, okay, we expected this?
I think it was pretty much expected. Going into it, we didn't know, are we going to have 150 people at this open forum and people yelling and screaming and saying, hey, we have to do this or we have to do that. I wasn't getting phone calls every day saying, we have to stay in the Raccoon River. We have to go to the Hawkeye 10. Our principal, I talked to him. He was part of Urbandale and things like that. And he's like, man, people really felt strongly on one side and people felt really strongly on the other side. And it was like 50-50. And I don't feel like that was the case here. It was a majority that were ready for something different. We have some sports that have struggled in the Raccoon River, and those coaches want something else. Yeah. And I keep telling them, and I keep telling the people that want to stay in the Raccoon River because of the competitiveness, like the Hawkeye 10 is going to be competitive, right? Like It's not like, all right, we're getting out of the Raccoon River and now it's going to be easy to compete in the Hawkeye 10. Like, do I think we're more like those schools? Yes, but that doesn't change the competitive nature of those programs. Obviously every school's got different programs that are good and things like that, but it's going to be tough wherever we go.
What's the next step for you guys in this process?
Good question. I got home last night and went, all right, like this is happening, I guess. So we need to figure out what we're doing here.
Yeah, geez, Jeff, he's had like an hour and a half to absorb this. Come on.
Obviously, I talked to my brother last night and just said, hey, it's done. Obviously, he had already heard. By the time I got home, I had a bunch of texts from a bunch of people. So I think the scheduling part of it is figuring out what schedules are going to look like and what we're going to do. I feel like we did a good job of digging into what their conference is like before we made the decision. So as far as their scheduling and things like that, so I don't think it's like, man, we got to retweak everything. But yeah, there'll be a lot more discussions instead of me just going to the Raccoon River AD meetings. I'm going to be attending some Hawkeye 10 AD meetings to figure out what the schedules will look like and things like that.
Well, before we wrap things up here, Randy, real quick, I just wanted to ask you one thing. Is there going to be one sport that is more affected than any others? It's not going to affect football, because those are all districts, things like that. But I look at like girls softball. That's going to be totally different going from the Raccoon River to the Hawkeye 10. Is there going to be any other sports that are drastically affected?
I think the spring and summer sports are going to be the big ones. We've had some, how I felt, pretty good softball teams over the year. And, the one year I brought it up at the forum, too, we were 15-0 non-conference and 0-15 in the conference for the Raccoon River, and year after year, the Raccoon River softball schools are really, really good. There's 2 or 3 schools making it the state every year. And we'd get into those games, and we're just hoping we don't get 10 run, right? So, and again, like, we're not shying away from the competition. We're not scared to play those schools, but I think just, and I'm not saying the Hawkeye 10 schools aren't as good as the Raccoon River. I don't need to get in that battle of which conference is better than the other, but I think those sports especially will see, they'll just be better for them, right? Yeah. They'll be playing against competition that's more like them and against schools that are more like them. So I think the biggest adjustment there will be kind of those schools.
Well, Brandon, we're going to wrap things up here with you, but thanks so much for coming in. We appreciate it. It's kind of an exciting time right now for Carroll High then.
Yeah, we're excited. Coaches are excited. Kids are excited. Obviously, we try to make decisions on what's best for kids and in our programs at Carroll, and we see this as something that's good for everybody.
Yeah, now we all have to wait while you work.
That's okay. That's all right. Hopefully, we'll get things rolling, and hopefully by next year we'll be there and get things rolling.
All right. Randy Bissen joining us here on KCIM Sports Rewind here this morning. We'll be back with more coming up next on KCIM Sports Rewind.
As the athletes at your house prepare for hard work and fun of the season, remember that St. Anthony Rehab Services provides physical therapy for any sports injury that may sideline your member of the team. Sports injuries can plague kids of all ages and keep them from playing the sport they love. Athletes will be under the direct supervision of a certified and licensed healthcare professional in the newly renovated sports performance facility. If an injury is keeping your athlete out of the game, call St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
The more you listen to your kids, the closer you'll be. So we asked kids, what do you want your parents to hear?
I feel sometimes that I'm not listened to. I would just want you to listen to me more often and evaluate situations with me and lead me towards success.
Listening is a form of love. Find resources to help you support your kids and their emotional well-being at sounditouttogether.org. That's sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Pivotal.
At National Geographic Society, we believe in the power of wonder. It drives us to explore, pushes us to see the world differently, moves us to action. And we believe that today, wonder is more essential than ever. Wow. That's why we're supporting a new generation of explorers to ask big questions, make breakthroughs, and bring the future closer. Wonder awaits. Will you join us? Visit natgeo.org/wonder.
Brunner, Reinhardt, and Morton has been proudly serving West Central Iowa since 1936. From the entire staff, thank you for your trust and support over the years. For real estate, wills, estate planning, and more, we're honored to be your neighbors. Brunner Legal, here for you today and tomorrow. Visit BrunnerLegal.com.
It is KCIM Sports Rewind. Our thanks to Randy Bissen. Great conversation with him this morning. As still a lot to be determined, schedule-wise, things like that. But tell you what, I think it's the right move for Carroll High, certainly.
I do too, and I think we kind of talked about that. I think it was. I know it was July. I think when the invite came, I think it was close to postseason time, because I can remember talking to Randy on the morning that we held our summer rewind event and stuff, because him and I were down at the field early because we had gotten some rain and wanted to see if the field was going to be playable for the event and everything. And I can remember having that conversation about, you guys just recently got the invite, kind of what's the discussion amongst the people in school. So it was back in July, but I think I felt, and I think Mason felt then too, that, as Mason said this morning, we talked when he first started with us back in March that, 4 or 5 years down the road, Carroll probably is going to get invited into the Hawkeye 10. We didn't think it was going to be as
months, not years.
Yeah, months and not years. So
yeah, I mean, we had said it 5 years. I've been here now 6 months, and Carroll's gotten the invite, talked it over, and now accepted the invite within those 6 months. And I think it's even probably been, 3 months since they've done that whole process. But I think they did a nice job of being thorough, figuring out what the community wanted, what the coaches wanted, what the kids wanted. And I know from talking to some of the people when I went back to do the Carroll game against ADM for volleyball, I think everyone was happy with the fact that they went through and cared about what everyone else had felt, so that they knew that, if we're going to make this conference our home for the next 10, 20, however many years, that everyone feels like it's a home and not just some people.
And the Hawkeye 10 they were the ones in a hurry. I mean, they were losing members. They were in limbo without Carroll High joining at that point. So, it's not like they pressured Carroll High, but Carroll High, said, okay, this has to kind of happen now, and they went out and made it happen.
Yeah, because I think people probably forget that, you've got Lewis Central leaving for the Missouri River Conference, but Denison and Glenwood and Harlan were also in the talks of, whether or not they'd gotten an invite to that league and whether or not they were going to be going. So, I think Carroll had to find out exactly what was going on before they could delve in, because the Hawkeye 10 was in jeopardy of maybe not even existing, and that's hard to believe because of the tradition and the history of that league. But all of a sudden, you take that league down to about 4 or 5 teams, and they're in some pretty big trouble at that point. So I think for them to get Carroll High is a boon for that league. I think the interesting thing now is that whether or not they can get this transition, approved and then be moved, at the end of this school year and start it, next fall when school starts.
I tell you, if the Hawkeye 10 went away, you're talking about 2 schools, Harlan and Carroll specifically, that would have been in limbo probably.
Yep.
So it's a big headache down the road that was avoided by all of this. So we got to move on and talk to other things. We got our Market on 30 sack of the game coming up. Want to say congratulations to Joe Hinners of Manning. He is our winner this week of a sack of groceries from the Market on 30. Once again, get signed up for next Tuesday morning. We'll be announcing another winner of a free sack of groceries. We just need the sack of the game now.
You bet. Mason Kelrenzi from ICAM Manning had that sack in your game.
Yeah, Kelrenzi. I mean, there was a play in the early part of the game where they were playing South Central Calhoun, and it was a nice coverage by ICAM Manning. Kale from the safety position slotted down to a linebacker and then came on the outside to be able to get a sack as South Central Calhoun's quarterback was rolling out right side.
Yeah, Kelrenzi, sack of the game from Market on 30.
Good morning, all student-athlete parents. Don't let your hectic schedules keep you from feeding your family. The Market on 30 can help you with quick and easy options like Pasquale's Pizzas, our famous mac and cheese, chicken strips, and much more. The Market on 30 in the BP Plaza.
All right, just a couple more minutes left to hear of KCIM Sports Rewind. So let's just hit the highlights here. Week 3 of high school football featured a major defensive stand by Carroll High to get their first win.
Yeah, almost let one kind of slip away, up 14 with just over 2 minutes remaining, gave up 13 points in a row, and Humboldt lined up for a 2-point conversion, but the Tigers able to make the stop to pull out a 34-33 win and get their first win of the season. So I'm sure that one still feels probably pretty good.
Yeah, I have no doubt. That was Humboldt's a good team, and they've had a real tough schedule so far. What other highlights came out of the week 3 of high school football?
You look at kind of some of the other stuff that you saw in football. Audubon making a stand there. Arwevo was in some different polls ranked ahead of them and favored to win that district. I don't know if that was what everyone around this area had thought or not, but Audubon goes in and puts up 84 points and gives up just the 1 kick return to Wyatt Regaler. So I think that's kind of the big point for me of this week 3 football.
And then Coon Rapids Bayard, another slow start offensively, even defensively. I think they were down 34-6 at one point to Exira and Kimmel. Then they come back to win at 64-62 in a shootout. I think they were still playing that game at 10:30 on Friday night.
That's a Madden video game score.
But they'll be tested. They got Griswold on the road this week, but they've got that matchup with Audubon looming. So if they can stay winning, they'll be playing for a lead in the district.
I just want to say shout out to Caden Oswald for the stat line. He put up 21 carries, I think 6 yards shy of 400, and then 8 touchdowns in the game. He had 8 of their 9 during that game.
Whoa!
And they were all rushing too. I think they threw 5 passes in a comeback win when you go 64 points and you only throw the ball 5 times.
So is he a candidate for our regional athlete of the week on Friday?
I can't spoil that secret.
How about volleyball? Any big highlights there for the week?
I think Saturday's tournament was kind of nice. You had Kemper, Carroll. You had ESAC and South Central Calhoun all up at the South Central Calhoun tournament. Kemper went undefeated. Looks like they're kind of finding that rhythm without Brianna and getting comfortable. Nice to hear that she might be back sooner than what was first expected because she's such a huge part of what they do. But they played really well. Carroll continues to grow and I think is playing well. I think Coach Steiger felt like ESAC County played well up there as well. And then South Central Calhoun, with everything that happened last week, you could see, I will see even in the pictures that Jeff Storyhan took from their football game on Friday night that you can just tell with everything that happened that, it was just a tough week for them in all aspects of life. And so they'll look to bounce back, and I think they'll do that starting tonight down at the quad that the volleyball team goes to at ACGC.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. And you got some volleyball tonight this afternoon. In fact, mid-afternoon. Rennie says, hey, we got a 4:15 volleyball match. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, Kemper's hosting a triangular tonight with St. Albert and Red Oak. They'll play Red Oak first at 4:30. So Red Oak's, right there in the conference with them, tied for first place in the league. So it's the better of the matchup. So, yeah, that one's going to start at 4:30. I'll go in with pregame at about 4:20 or so. We'll have that on KKRL and then also on the CB Sports Network coming up up tonight. So, and then Carroll High at home tonight as well with Dennis and Schleswig, and Casey Miners will have that one over on Kick later tonight at about 7 o'clock.
And real quick, Deb Danner caught her on the coaches show on Saturday morning. Super happy the way their girls team swim team started out.
Yeah, a really good start, even though they fell to Lincoln, Des Moines Lincoln in their season opener. Lincoln had already had a couple of meets. They get to host Lewis Central tonight, but really pleased with the way her team's going. And then in girls tennis, just want to throw this out. Everybody wrapped up the regular season yesterday. Postseason individual tournaments start tomorrow.
Whoa.
And then the team aspects start on Saturday. And Kemper going to be home Saturday morning at 10 o'clock at Grand Park if everybody wants to go out and cheer them on.
They got to get it done before the snow flies.
Yes.
All right. That is KCIM Sports Rewind for this week. You can catch a podcast available on the website here at 1380 KCIM coming up in just a couple of more minutes. And again, our thanks to Randy Bissen, Carroll High School Athletic Director, coming in to talk about their jump to the Hawkeye 10 on KCIM Sports Rewind.